Old Style and New Style are sometimes used with dates to indicate whether the Julian year has been adjusted to start on the 1st of January, even though documents written at the time use a different start of year, or whether a date conforms to the Julian calendar, formerly in use in many countries, rather than the Gregorian. Closely related is double dating, which uses 2 consecutive years because of differences in the starting date of the year, or includes both the Julian and Gregorian dates. Beginning in 1582, the Gregorian calendar replaced the Julian in Catholic countries. This change was also implemented in Protestant and Orthodox countries some time later, in England and Wales, Ireland, and the British colonies. The change of the start of the year and the changeover from the Julian calendar occurred in 1752 under the Calendar Act 1750. In Scotland, the legal start of the year had already been moved to the 1st of January, but Scotland otherwise continued to use the Julian calendar until 1752. Many cultures and countries now using the Gregorian calendar have different old styles of dating, depending on the type of calendar they used before the change. The Latin equivalents of OS and NS, which are used in many languages, are Stili Veterus or Stila Vetera, abbreviated St. V, and respectively meaning Old Style and Old Style, and correspondingly Stili Novi or Stilo Novo, abbreviated St. N, and meaning New Style. The Latin abbreviations may be capitalized differently by different users, e.g., St. N or St. N for Stili Novi. There are equivalents for these terms in other languages as well, such as the German A. Saint, start of the year in the historical records of Britain and its colonies and possessions. When recording British history, it is usual to use the dates recorded at the time of the event, with the year adjusted to start on the 1st of January. But the start of the Julian year was not always the 1st of January, and was altered at different times in different countries. From the 12th century to 1752, the civil or legal year in England began on the 25th of March, so for example the execution of Charles I was recorded at the time in Parliament as happening on the 30th of January 1648. In modern English language texts, this date is usually shown as the 30th of January 1649. The corresponding date in the Gregorian calendar is the 9th of February 1649, the date by which his contemporaries in some parts of continental Europe would have recorded his execution. In the 19th century, there was a difference of 12 days between the two calendars. The OS/NS designation is particularly relevant for dates which fall between the start of the modern year and the start of the contemporary year, which was the 25th of March in England and Wales until 1752. During the years of transition between the first introduction of the Gregorian calendar in continental Europe and its introduction in Britain, contemporary usage in England started to change. In Britain, the 1st of January was celebrated as the New Year festival, but the year starting the 25th of March was called the civil or legal year, although the phrase Old Style was more commonly used. To reduce misunderstandings about the date, it was normal in parish registers to place a New Year heading after the 24th of March and another heading at the end of the following December, 1661 60 seconds. To indicate that in the following few weeks the year was 1661 Old Style but 1662 New Style. Some more modern sources, often more academic ones, also use the 1661 60 seconds style for the period between the 1st of January and the 25th of March for years before the introduction of the Gregorian calendar in England. Differences between Julian and Gregorian dates. When converting a date in a year which is leap in one calendar but not the other, include the 29th of February in the calculation when the conversion crosses the border between February and March. The Julian calendar was formerly in use in many European countries and their colonies, rather than the Gregorian calendar, which is currently in use in most countries. Consequently, and to avoid ambiguity, Old Style and New Style are sometimes added to historical dates to identify which system is being used. This notation is used in Western European history. Similar notations are in use for the equivalent conversions in Eastern Europe and Asia. For 170 years, both dating systems were in concurrent use in different parts of Western Europe and its colonies. During this period, the difference between the styles increased from 10 to 13 days due to the Julian calendar's excess of leap years. The switch to the Gregorian calendar for secular use occurred in Eastern Orthodox countries as late as the 20th century, and some religious groups in some of these countries still use the Julian calendar for ecclesiastical purposes. Catholic countries such as Italy, Poland, Spain, and Portugal were first to change to the Gregorian calendar. Thursday, 4th of October 1582 was followed by Friday, 15th of October 1582, with 10 days missing. Countries that did not change until the 18th century had by then observed an additional leap year, necessitating 11 missing days. Some countries did not change until the 19th or 20th century, necessitating 1 or 2 more missing days. France changed from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar on the 9th of December 1582, so the next day was the 20th of December 1582. France used the French Republican calendar from the 22nd of September 1792 to the 31st of December 1805. Great Britain Act 1750, and the British colonies changed from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar at midnight on Wednesday, the 2nd of September 1752. The next day was Thursday, the 14th of September 1752. During the First World War, the Kingdom of Bulgaria changed from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar on the 31st of March 1916, and the next day was the 14th of April 1916. The Ottoman Empire changed its fiscal calendar a year later, with the 15th of February followed by the 1st of March 1917. The beginning of the year was reset to the 1st of January starting in 1918. Year numbering, however, remained uniquely Turkish until the Gregorian calendar was introduced for general purposes in 1926. In Russia, the terms Old Style and New Style have the same significance as elsewhere. The start of the year was moved to the 1st of January in 1700, but the Gregorian calendar was introduced there much later, on the 14th of February 1918 in Soviet Russia. Hence the October Revolution of 1917 is so called, as it started on the 25th of October in the Julian calendar, but on the 7th of November under the Gregorian. Articles about the October Revolution which mention this date difference tend to do a full conversion to the dates from Julian to the Gregorian calendar. For example, in the article, The October Revolution, the Encyclopaedia Britannica uses the format of the 25th of October to describe the date of the start of the Revolution. It is sometimes remarked that William Shakespeare and Miguel de Cervantes died on the same date, the 23rd of April 1616, but not on the same day. England was still using the Julian calendar in 1616, while Spain was using the Gregorian calendar. Cervantes actually died 10 days before Shakespeare. Possible date conflicts. Occasionally using different calendars has caused confusion between contemporaries. For example, it is related that one of the contributory factors for Napoleon's victory at the Battle of Austerlitz was the confusion between the Russians, who were using the Julian calendar, and the Austrians, who were using the Gregorian calendar, over the date that their forces should combine. However, this tale is not supported in a contemporary account from a major general of the Austrian Imperial and Royal Army, who tells of a joint advance of the Russian and Austrian forces 5 days before the battle, and it is explicitly rejected in Goetz's 2005 book-length study of the battle. Usually, the mapping of new dates onto old dates with a start-of-year adjustment works well with little confusion for events which happened before the introduction of the Gregorian calendar. For example, the Battle of Agincourt is universally known to have been fought on the 25th of October 1415, which is St. Crispin's Day. But for the period between the first introduction of the Gregorian calendar on the 15th of October 1582 and its introduction in Britain on the 14th of September 1752, there can be considerable confusion between events in continental Western Europe and in British domains. Events in continental Western Europe are usually reported in English-language histories as happening under the Gregorian calendar. For example, the Battle of Blenheim is always given as the 13th of August 1704. However, confusion occurs when an event involves both. For example, William III of England arrived at Brixham in England on the 5th of November, after setting sail from the Netherlands on the 11th of November, in 1688. For this reason, letters concerning diplomacy and international trade sometimes bore both Old and New Style dates to prevent confusion. The Battle of the Boyne in Ireland took place a few months later on the 1st of July 1690, Old Style. This maps to the 11th of July New Style, but because of the date of a subsequent battle it is commemorated as the 12th, on the 12th of July New Style, by a public holiday in Northern Ireland, with the Orange Parades, and is an exception to the usual historical method of commemorating events of that period within Great Britain and Ireland by mapping the Julian date directly onto the modern Gregorian calendar. Because of the differences, English people and their correspondents often employed two dates, dual dating, more or less automatically. In his biography of Dr. John Dee, the Queen's Conjurer, Benjamin Woolley surmises that, because Dee fought unsuccessfully for England to embrace the 1583-84th date set for the change, England remained outside the Gregorian system for a further 170 years, communications during that period customarily carrying two dates, one, OS, or Old Style, the other, NS, or New Style. In contrast, Thomas Jefferson, who lived during the time that the British Isles and colonies eventually converted to the Gregorian calendar, instructed that his tombstone bear his date of birth in the Old Style and his date of death in the New Style. At Jefferson's birth the difference was 11 days between the Julian and Gregorian calendars. Thus his birthday of the 2nd of April in the Old Style is 13 April in the New Style. Similarly, George Washington is nowadays officially reported as having been born on the 22nd of February 1732, rather than on the 11th of February 1731 32nd OS. After the conversion to the Gregorian calendar, Washington celebrated his birthday according to the New Style calendar. Many British people, however, continued to celebrate their holidays, Old Style, well into the 19th century. A practice that, according to the author Karen Bellany, reveals a deep emotional resistance to calendar reform. Countries that used lunisolar calendars, Japan, Korea, and China, started using the Gregorian calendar on the 1st of January 1873, 1896, and 1912, respectively. They had used lunisolar calendars previously. None of them used the Julian calendar. The Old Style and New Style dates in these countries usually mean the older lunisolar dates and the newer Gregorian calendar dates, respectively. In these countries, the Old Style calendars were similar but not all the same. The Arabic numerals may be used for both calendar dates in modern Japanese and Korean languages, but not for Chinese Old Style dates. Japan started using the Gregorian calendar on the 1st of January 1873, locally known as the first day of the first month of Meiji 6. The preceding day, the 31st of December 1872, was the second day of the 12th month of Meiji 5. Japan currently uses two eras, the Western era and a modified traditional Japanese era name. The months and days are those of the Gregorian calendar, but the year is either the Western year number or a year of the Nengo of the emperor on the throne. Since 1873, an era, and the first year of that era has begun on the day of the year that the emperor ascended the throne. The second year of that era began on the next, the 1st of January, even if the first year contained only a few days. All subsequent years of that era began on the 1st of January until that emperor died. For example, the first year of the Showa era, that of Emperor Hirohito, contained only the last 6 days of 1926, while Showa 64, his last year, contained only the first 7 days of 1989. The current Gregorian year 2015 corresponds to Heisei 27. Korea started using the Gregorian calendar on the 1st of January 1896. Which was the 17th day of the 11th lunar month, not only in Korea but also in China, which still used the lunisolar calendar. The lunisolar Korean calendar is now used for very limited unofficial purposes only. The North Korean calendar uses Gregorian months and days, but with Kim Il-sung's year of birth used as year 1. China and Taiwan. The Republic of China government under Provisional President Sun Yat-sen abolished the lunisolar Chinese calendar and adopted the Gregorian calendar on the 1st of January 1912. The public, however, resisted the change and continued to observe traditional holidays. President Yuan Shikai switched to a dual calendar policy, under which the Gregorian calendar was to be used for most purposes except traditional holidays, which were to be timed according to the Chinese calendar. When the Communists took over China in the late 1940s, they kept this two-calendar system for the People's Republic of China. Today China, Hong Kong, Macau, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore and Taiwan all observe traditional holidays based on the traditional calendar, such as Lunar New Year, while timing other holidays, especially national anniversaries, according to the Gregorian calendar. In China, national guidelines require writing new-style dates with Arabic numerals but old-style dates with Chinese characters. The use of Arabic numerals is considered overly casual for old-style dates. In Taiwan it is common to see Arabic numerals in new-style dates, though Chinese characters sometimes appear in these. Chinese characters are normally used for old-style dates. The calendar year in Taiwan is determined according to the traditional custom of era names, but using the founding of the Republic of China government in 1912 as the start rather than the regnal year of an emperor.